Susie You Breakfast, a part of your life. It's a very good morning now to Dubbo Regional Mayor Matthew Dickinson. Hello, sir. How are you this Friday morning?
I'm very good, thank you. Actually, it's a bit early for me where I am at the moment. I'm sitting in Perth, so it's a couple of hours earlier than where you are at the moment, Brett.
Oh, you've snuck in a little trip there, and I'm sorry. Did I wake you up, or have you been up for a while?
I got up a good 2 or 3 minutes ago expecting your call, Brett. So.
Oh, see, that's the way it's supposed to be, I'm sure. Look, let's talk about a few things council-wise. I'm not sure what's happening over there with inside the building, but you guys are actually calling on applications to join community committees. They've opened. I'm not sure if you caught up with Richard about that last week. How is the applications going? Do you know?
Look, a little bit slow, and so I'd really like to put a bit of a call out to the community. This is something that myself and fellow councillors have been really keen to revive. For whatever reason, the last council decided to disband most of the community committees. And I'm a huge fan of community committees. I love to see various community members come along, have expertise in certain areas. And as a councillor, you've got to be a bit of an all-rounder. You've got to be across a whole range of things in the community because you've got to make decisions that impact people's lives. So you need to make sure you know a little bit about everything. And that's not ideal, but that's the way it's got to be when you've got a position like a councillor. But those community committees, what's great about those is that you'll have people who are specialised in certain areas. So, for example, you might have the aquatics working party, aquatic centre working party. So people that are involved in swimming coaching, they've got kids that are swimming, a whole range of things involving swimming, then they know a lot more about what the pool needs and what's going to work well for the pool than I do, because I don't have kids that are swimming anymore. I don't have kids that are going down to the pool anymore. My kids have grown up and they've flown the coop as such. So getting that expertise for those different areas is really important. But unfortunately, the council at the moment, or the last council, I suppose, more so than this council, had a bit of a reputation of not really listening to the community. And so I'm really saying to the community, we are listening. We do want to hear from the community. So please put your applications in. There are 16 committees that have been formed in this council term already. We've only been in council for about 6 months. So we've formed those 16 committees. We've got applications open at the moment. In fact, they close today. The information's on our website. The terms of reference are on our website. Some people have said it's a little bit complicated to fill them in, but it's not meant to be complicated. We want to get some information about the people putting them in, because from those applications, we've got to then choose the people to be on those committees. So we want a bit of information about those people, but I really encourage people to put those applications in. We want them to be part of the decision-making process.
Now, this might be hand in hand with the finalisation of the improvement performance order, but also, as you already mentioned, trying to sort of win back the trust of the community. Has this been a really hard, sort of a journey for the new council?
It's slow. There's no doubt about it. It's a bit about trust, Brett. When you break trust, if I break your trust, I can break your trust in a fraction of a second, in a moment, in one thing that I do. You can lose trust in me. For me to then build that trust back up, then it's going to take time. And so in terms of a culture, I'm talking about a business, a council, whatever it might be, culture needs to change in a positive way. That can take a long time. Culture to change in a negative way can happen very quickly. So when this new council came in, there was no doubt about it that the community had a greater lack of trust in council than last time I was on council, without a doubt. And they weren't really happy. They weren't really convinced that council was always looking after the best interests of the community. And the community needs survey that was done back in 2019, the last one that was done, certainly reflected that. The opinions and the survey results showed exactly that. So the new council came in, and then one of the big jobs for this new council was to restore that trust. Now, it doesn't matter how good we perform on one day, then that's not going to restore the trust. We have to keep doing that day after day after day. And again, it's not even been 6 months, Brett, probably 5.5 months that this council's been in so far. And I think we're going along that path, but I don't expect the community just to say, oh, wow, this new council's great. We love council again. I understand it takes time to build that up. And the only way you can do that is with time and keep performing and keep doing the right thing.
Absolutely. Now, I can see here that there was a resolution that went through for the trial of 3D printed housing. Is this going to help with the housing crisis that we're experiencing out this way?
That's really exciting, actually, Brett. Matt Wright brought that forward, and Matt had seen a few things on 3D printed houses overseas and thought maybe this could be a way to actually help our housing crisis. Because when you talk to builders, one of the problems the builders have got is there's so much demand at the moment, they are flat out. They simply cannot get enough tradespeople to build the houses. The demand is so high at the moment, which is great. That means everyone wants to move to Dubbo, which I think is fantastic. The feedback I hear mainly is they want to move to Dubbo so they can listen to 2 so that's absolutely great for you guys. But the reality is that we just can't get enough people to build those houses. Now, 3D printed houses, when you watch one being built, and I've watched various videos of them, it's a bit like a tube of toothpaste that's being squeezed out along the outline of the house, the framework, if you like, of the house. But it can build that whole frame, including internal frame if you want, within a day or two. So that puts a huge head start on the actual building of the house. And then the cost effectiveness of that is quite good as well. And also the labour. So I don't want to cut people out of jobs here, but the reality is there just aren't the people doing the work at the moment. So if we can accelerate that process, that'd be fantastic. So the idea initially was the motion that went through council, Matt Wright brought to council, councils loved the idea, it went through unanimously. The idea was that in our next land release next year, we would reserve 4 blocks of that release specifically for a 3D printed house. So that signalled to the market that we were keen to see 3D printed houses. But already we've had meetings with 3 different companies, and we've got more meetings lined up for companies that say, forget about next year, we're going to be there tomorrow and start to build 3D printed houses. Now, from our perspective, the doors are open. Come in and start printing, please. We've got to make sure they comply legally. There's obviously legislative requirements when you're going to do any building. So we have to make sure that they comply from a regulatory point of view. There's been no 3D printed houses actually made across the state so far. So it's breaking new ground here in terms of what we're doing. But our planning department's working with some of these builders to make sure they can be compliant, to make sure they'll be legal. And then the reality is they may come to Dubbo sooner than next year when those blocks of land are released, because they only need a block of land and they can start building these houses. I think some of them are keen to show off what they can do, so maybe build something like a demonstration house, show proof of concept. But then once that happens, I can see the floodgates opening.
Now, could this technology also help as a step towards the right direction to try and maybe end homelessness in regional areas like Dubbo?
Yeah, end homelessness is a big thing. One of the things that I believe, when people talk to me about council needs to create more affordable housing, it's pretty hard for council. Council doesn't build homes and such, and council doesn't have the budget to go and build cheaper housing for people. The state government is who normally provides some of that cheaper housing. But one of the issues we see at the moment, Brett, is that there is such a huge demand for housing that good old simple economics, supply and demand, when the demand is so high and the supply is lighter or the supply is not enough, then that pushes prices up. So what's happening is prices in general are going up. Some of the increases in the median house prices over the last year are absolutely crazy. You know, things like in regional, this is not just Dubbo, this is in regional cities, you're talking about 20%, 30% increases in 1 year in the median house price. So what's happening is that's pushing the price up at the top end, and so that means that the lower end, the affordable housing, is just not there. And so one of the ways I think that will solve the affordable housing problem is to just basically be able to produce more housing, so increase the demand, increase the supply, reduce that demand, and that'll bring the prices down off the top end and then get to the stage where that flows through to the bottom and you'll get some of those lower end housing prices being a bit more reasonable. But at the moment, it's hard to say what a lower end price is, because everyone that tells me they're selling a house, or real estate agents that I talk to, they just talk about how much prices are going higher than they ever thought they would. And I spoke to an agent the other day. He was giving a bit of a history of real estate, or his time in real estate in Dubbo. He's been in real estate for over 42 years. And he said the current process around expressions of interest or prices from, he said that was something that they never saw back in the early days of real estate in Dubbo. What you did is you had a house, you advertised it at a certain price, and then someone would come along and offer you a lower price than that, and you'd start the negotiation. He's just never seen a process now where he's not even advertising some houses. There are so many people lined up on his books that are looking for a certain type of house. When a house comes on the market, he'll make a few phone calls and sell the price, sometimes within a few days of it going on the market, at a price much higher than the person actually asked for. So it's a different market at the moment.
Absolutely, Matt. In 30 seconds, because I'm out of time, Memorandum of Understanding with Charles Sturt University and Council. What's this about?
there used to be an MOU between Charles Sturt and Council that simply said, we'll work together to better the educational prospects of people in the region through that MOU. For whatever reason, that MOU dropped off and there was no longer an MOU. And one of the things I found when I first came back on the council, I said, so how often do we meet? When's the next meeting with Charles Sturt? And they all looked at me blankly and said, what meetings with Charles Sturt? What are you talking about? Went back through the archives, found the MOU, found that one had expired and it had never been renewed. So we've renewed that process now. And education, university education, is so important for two reasons: to keep some of our young talent in Dubbo, but also to attract talent mainly from the region, more so than from Dubbo, to Dubbo, because obviously they want that education. So essentially, having council and Charles Sturt University working together in whatever way we possibly can is very important. And just briefly on top of that, we also just signed another one that lapsed, was an MOU we used to have with the Aboriginal Working Party. So we've just re-signed a partnership agreement, or signed a new partnership agreement with the Aboriginal Working Party and council. I think that's a really important one as well.
No, perfect. All right, Matt, out of time. Thanks so much for joining us. You'll have Richard Furno next week, but what are you doing over where you are?
Well, hopefully in a couple of hours, I'm going to collect an award. We're over here for an award ceremony for the Wellington Caves, the new exhibit at the Wellington Caves, where we've got that beautiful big skeleton of a diprotodon. It's the largest skeleton in Australia, or probably in the world, and the diprotodon was the largest megafauna that used to roam the earth around the Wellington area. So they found skeletal remains there. We did a 3D printed skeleton of that diprotodon, and that's part of the exhibit down in Wellington Caves. So I'm over here at a conference today, just flew in last night, here for the award ceremony today. Hopefully we'll win that particular award and I'll be able to come home with a shiny new trophy.
Who's it through, like tourism or something?
It's Australian Museums and Galleries Association. So that down there in terms of Wellington is as much a museum as it is a tourist attraction.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, good luck, and hopefully you pick up the gong tonight.
Yeah, hopefully.
All right, we'll catch up soon. Dubbo Regional Mayor Matthew Dick